All right, welcome to Yin Yoga. Today we're gonna work upper and lower bodies. Gonna do a general all over thing. So if you want to start off seated, just get yourself comfy. It's always nice to have props. Don't need them typically with the Yin practice, but they're nice to have. We're gonna sit up tall. Taking a couple deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just feeling your day melt off of your body with every exhale. Just making a note of the area of the things that are taking up mental space in your head. And you just want to kind of highlight those things because whenever we have a slow, mindful practice, our mind likes to run away and go to places other than the present moment. So notice when it does that and just bring it back to the breath. And you'll do that probably 1,000 times in the next hour, and that's fine. Presence really is just the practice of coming back to ourselves. It's not necessarily a state of being. And our first pose is going to be a wide-legged straddle. I do like to pop my hips up for this one. So if you've got a pillow or something, you can always do that. Open the legs up into a straddle. Now, if you're really stressed, you've got a lot going on in your life, you can always take this into legs up the wall. So just coming into legs up the wall and then opening up into a straddle. It's a really nice variation. If you're like me and you're just getting back into a practice, you might need more props than normal. If your body is a little on the tight side, you might need more props. For some of us, just sitting upright here is going to be a challenge. So if that is you, you might want to take this into the wall for this variation as well, where you just use the wall to help you sit up nice and tall. If you've got that height in the low back and in the hamstrings, and you are sitting up tall already, then you're going to start working this pose forward. And you just kind of take it as far forward as you can go with a flat spine, so without rounding in the spine. And then when you can't go any further, you're going to just melt. Let the body melt. Rest your forearms on blocks or on the floor. If you have a plethora of props, you can always build yourself a little mountain for your forehead. Really just whatever works for your body. And with Yin Yoga, we are in the poses for 3 to 5 minutes. And the brain is going to wander, bring it back. And the body's going to protest a little bit. That's fine, let it. You want to find your edge. So I always say the difference between a yin practice and a restorative practice is a restorative practice is coming into yoga shapes and then taking a nap. A yin practice is coming into yoga shapes and then taking ourselves to the edge and surrendering completely. So you want to be challenged. You want to feel the stretch. You want to feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortability is pretty much what yin yoga is. Wish I had something beautiful and flowery and poetic to say to you, but I don't. Yin yoga is just about being able to take yourself to that edge, to be in the discomfort and to be present with it, to avoid fidgeting, to avoid resisting, to avoid restraining your breath in any way. And you'll find over the minutes, sometimes your edge will shift deeper. Sometimes your edge will shift more superficial. So you may find yourself needing to go deeper into the pose, and you may find yourself needing to back out of the pose. Both of those are fully perfect. Trust your body. Always ask yourself, is this level of discomfort just irritating and I'm not in the mood to deal with it? Or is this level of discomfort really something I need to shift? We bring the awareness back to the breath, into the sensations. And we just allow our body and our yoga practice to become a little bit of theater. We just sit back and watch it. We watch what's happening in our mind. We watch what's happening in our breath. We watch what's happening in our body. And the more we can pay attention, the more we're going to learn about ourselves. You'll start to uncover some really interesting nuances in your body. And then you'll be able to take that awareness out off of the yoga mat into sitting wherever you sit during the day, standing wherever you stand during the day, running, yogaing, chasing kids, riding horses, whatever it is that you do. You'll take that awareness off the mat with you. We've got about another minute here. See if you can slow your breath down. Maybe drop a little deeper if that feels appropriate. And slowly walk your torso up with your arms if you've folded forward. If you're in legs at the wall, you're going to bring the legs together. And if you're on the floor, you're just going to grab one knee, pull it in, grab the other. And we're going to come back to this pose and add upper body in a second. But I want to give those inner knees a little break. And we're going to come into a seated forward fold. So again, if you have something to bring a little height under the hips, say 90% of the population could do with some height under the hips. So a lot of us have very tight hamstrings and low back. So my legs extend out in front of me, my feet relax. My pelvis is already suggested to be tipped forward by the bolster or whatever I'm sitting on. And then just like our last pose, I'm going to tip it forward as far as I can. So again, if you've got tight hamstrings and hips and you're kind of finding yourself here, then you might need to use the wall to sit up tall. If you're very overworked, underpaid, and stressed, legs up the wall is always an option here as well. So I take the spine nice and long, extend it forward, and then melt. Drop down. Again, it's always nice to have props. You can build yourself a little forehead tower. You can place your arms on them. Not needed, but nice. And you again want to find that edge. So we're stretching out the whole spine here. We really allow the head to drop down. And if you know that you have a tendency to externally rotate, so walk like a duck, then you might want to play with really making sure the toes are straight forward here, or even taking the feet slightly wider and internally rotating and coming into this. If you have a lot of low back pain, internal rotation is going to be great. If you know that you struggle with external rotation, then you can take this pose in external rotation, or you can do all three. And just kind of play minute by minute with all the options. Again, that's something that as you become more present in your body and aware, and you're watching what's going on, that you're going to start to notice, this feels a little more challenging in internal rotation or an external rotation. And then you'll start noticing that feeling in your daily life, just walking down the street. Notice what areas feel more challenged as you take a deep breath in. And then notice what areas feel more challenged as you release that breath and surrender deeper into the pose. And use your arms to slowly roll yourself up. And then let's take this into a butterfly. So it's a much wider butterfly than we would typically do in a yang practice. I like to say that if you could fold yourself flat in half, your forehead would rest comfortably right in the arch of the foot. If you need support under your knees, you can always find that. Otherwise, we do the same thing where we work on lengthening spine as much as we can. We tip forwards as far as we can with that flat back. And when we can't go any further with a flat back, then we surrender and melt down. Always coming back to the breath first and foremost. Again, look to see where you're challenged on your inhale and where you're challenged on your exhale. And use the breath as a tool in your practice to create more space. Going to roll yourself up. And instead of coming back to that straddle, I actually think we'll do some variations that mix the straddle and this pose here. So you're going to extend your left leg. We're going to do half butterfly in a couple different ways. If it's comfortable to, you can take the height up from under your hips. And I'm just going to shorten up my half butterfly so that my arch is right about at my knee. And notice if that left leg has a tendency to roll out or roll in, you want to go opposite of its tendency. So for me, tendency is to go out, so I'm going to roll it in slightly. And then I'm just going to take this pose again, flat back, straight forwards, and then round over. And my pelvis is square, okay? So I haven't pulled my hip back. That'll be next. So it's very, very simply a forward fold with one leg bent. Pelvis is square. Notice any place that you are holding unnecessary tension. Oftentimes that's the shoulders, the forehead, the jaw, the tongue. Roll up just about halfway, and you're going to slide that left elbow either down onto the above the knee on the thigh, or onto the foot, or onto the mat. Or if that's not available, you can take a block to the outside. And we're going to open up to the right. Now let the left ear hang towards the left shoulder. And you can use your right arm to actually press you deeper into this position. But I want you to imagine that even as you're pushing with this right arm, it's as if someone has their hand on the front of your right shoulder and they're pulling you around using that. So first option is right hand on right knee to rotate you. Second option is right hand on low back or slid around behind the back, reaching for that left hip. You can also open up with the arm up. So if you're doing that, obviously it's a little more of a yang pose, but you're still letting the head and the neck and the left rib cage fall towards the left side of the mat. I find that I get a better neck stretch when I bring the arm behind my back. And returning to the breath. Where are you challenged on the inhale? Where are you challenged on the exhale? Where are you holding unnecessary tension? And if you get too much in the neck, you can always bend the elbow and put your head on your hand. And you're going to press yourself up and lengthen out the right leg. And let's just take a second to give that low back a moment of peace. So lower yourself down for a little mini shavasana. You might even get some adjustments in the low back, in the sacrum. Now roll yourself onto one side, press yourself up, and we'll switch sides. So right leg forward, left arch of the foot in the right inner knee. Pelvis is square. And again, I take myself forwards and melt down. Check in with where your brain is wandered off to. And roll up. And then drop the right elbow to either the thigh, the foot, the floor, the block, whatever works for you. You're going to rotate yourself around. Start with that left hand pushing into the left knee to roll the left shoulder open. Right ear drops down towards the right shoulder. And then once you've got that real lift happening in the left shoulder, you can bring the left hand to the low back, wrap it around behind your back. You can reach it up behind you, whatever works best for you. Make sure that your head is dropping down towards your right knee. Come back to your breath. Go ahead and Pull yourself up. Lengthen out that left leg. And now we're going to do the same thing on the right side again. So bend that right knee, but now I want you to pull your right hip back. So it's more of a half straddle than before where it was a half forward or a half, yeah, parallel forward fold. And again, my foot is just on the inside of that left knee. But now I'm going to rotate. So I'm twisting into myself towards that left leg and then coming over top. Holding down and resting. So we've just shifted where in that right low back we are stretching. Walk yourself halfway up again. And bring the left elbow down. Again, either into the foot or the thigh, floor or block. Rotate around. A bit more space this time because the hips back. You can slide that arm behind your back. You can take the arm up, whatever works for you. Dropping the left ear towards the left shoulder and the left side of the body towards the left leg. And roll yourself up. Unwind everything nice and slow. And we'll switch sides. Right leg lengthens. Left foot comes in. Left hip shifts backwards. So again, we end up in more of a half straddle. And then we twist into that right leg, lengthen over top, and fold down. Slowly moving upwards. Bringing the right elbow down on the foot, on the thigh, on the block, on the floor, whatever works for you. And then rotating yourself around, left shoulder lifts up. Again, that arm can come up or wrap around behind, whatever works best for you in your body today. Gently rolling yourself up, unwinding. Pretty normal in a yin practice to feel like like you're waking up from a coma every time you move out of a pose, like you just had not moved your body in years. So that is normal if that's what you're experiencing. That's what I'm experiencing. And we just want to move slow. Yin is all about slowness. We're going to come into a little shavasana now. And because it's a good place for it, the low back has been worked pretty good. And then we're going to come out of it with some gentle chest openers. So we'll be here for a little bit. Get yourself comfy, get yourself warm if you need to. And again, you might enjoy some lovely release through the sacrum, pelvis, the low back. And start to deepen the breath once again. And allowing some movement to come into the pelvis, reaching through one leg and then the other, taking the arms up and reaching in opposition. Bending the knees. We'll roll over onto one side. And then keep rolling till you come onto your belly into Sphinx pose. So elbows are under the shoulders. And this should feel amazing after all that forward folding that we did. And then deepening this back bend by pressing into the heel of your hands, straightening out the arms and try to pull the shoulders down your back. Relax your glutes, relax your legs. And then lowering those elbows back down. I'm going to slide the hands next to the ribs. Push yourself up onto all fours. Keep the hips on top of the knees, but walk the hands forward into Anahata. And then keep sliding those hips back into child's pose. Gently coming up from there. Just coming back to seated, whether in hero's pose or in a cross-legged seat, whatever feels good. Allow the shoulders to drop away from the ears and just enjoy the gravity of the torso, the rib cage pulling on those collarbones after opening up in those side bends. To be a little more space to breathe, a little more ease between the shoulder blades. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for some Yin Yoga. Namaste.